Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and if you're on mobile, that hype button always helps out. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account. It says, my 24 female, boyfriend 29 male of 1.5 years is stealing my opinions and skills to look cool. I don't think I would have really noticed if we weren't both working from home and living together. But my boyfriend constantly copies the things I say and do, and repeats them to friends and co-workers as if they're his own original ideas. And it's not just that he repeats them, but 99% of the time, he does it with things that when I say them, he argues with me about. Example 1. We watched a TV show on Netflix a couple of months ago. I brought up that while I liked it, it had some pretty problematic stuff regarding the way it treated women and LGBTQ+ women in particular. I'm bisexual. He really argued with me and wrote off things that I brought up, making excuses regarding how Hollywood is and saying I was being too sensitive and overly critical. The next day I heard him in our living room talking to his friends on Skype about it. He brought up my exact points, using my exact wording, as if it was his own idea. I enjoyed it, but I tried to be sensitive about this issue, and this was something I noticed. That type of thing. I praised him for his progressive thinking, and it rubbed me the wrong way. But I tried to forget about it. This sort of thing has happened over and over, like multiple times a week. Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's a book I'm reading, sometimes it's life advice regarding work. I started noticing it, and now I don't think we've had a similar argument without him later repeating what I say to other people like it's his idea. Sometimes it has to do with things I know a lot about. For instance, very specific skills that I have, but he doesn't. He will talk to people as if he has those skills and has done those things when he's talking about things he's seen me do. Example 2. The last straw came when I made him a special dish that I love, and the recipe is one I developed over years. It's very time consuming, but he loved it. He asked me to make more, and I did because I was pleased he liked it. I spent a whole afternoon doing it, and I made extra so that he could take some with him to a work meeting to share. He told me he would brag about what a talented girlfriend he had, and it made me feel really happy. The day after, I heard him in a Zoom meeting with his co-workers, and they were all talking about how good this dish was. And they kept talking about how surprised they were he was such a good cook, and how he had to cook more for them. He was acting very humble, saying thank you, and even mentioning ways he had perfected the recipe. And the only mention of other help was he offhandedly said that a friend had helped him with some of the prep work. Later I told him that I overheard him and what he had said. At first he got really defensive. He told me that he was caught off guard and that afterwards he came clean to them, although I didn't hear that part. I told him it made me feel bad, like I was unappreciated, and it took away things that I love and I'm proud of about myself. Then he got upset and said that he just hates feeling like a failure or that he can't do something. And he felt like a terrible person for hurting me. He apologized, but I felt like the conversation had kind of turned into one about him and his vulnerabilities, and no longer about how it has hurt me. Now, I've heard him do similar things multiple times again. I feel like it's ridiculous to bring it up again because it will start a fight that won't mean anything, but it's making me crazy. Am I being too sensitive? Should I just let it go? Or is it worth bringing up again? And if so, how? Now, as always, there's a whole bunch of red flags here, but a friend comment jumped out to me as well. Not just taking your achievements and your skills and your hobbies and your thoughts, he's pretty much taken you out of the picture completely, almost like he's got a double life going on. And then when you confronted him about it, he didn't apologize genuinely. He turned it around so you was comforting him and his feelings while your problem just sort of disappeared. But then I was just questioning after all this, what does he bring to your relationship? Rose Hip says, what I'm wondering is why you want to be with someone who doesn't have a single independent thought, who steals your identity, who disregards your feelings and accuses you of being too sensitive when he's the one lying and presenting a false mask to the world. The problem here isn't your boyfriend. It's why you're willing to put up with someone who clearly has some character issues. This is who he is. He has little regard for how you feel about any of this. He's unlikely to change. Opie says, I didn't realize all of this was happening until recently. It's making me reevaluate other little things as well. Most of our time together, we've both been very independent and busy with our careers, so we didn't have many situations where I would have noticed that. Then we moved in together and I lost my job. Thanks COVID. A couple of months ago, so I have more time to think and notice these things. And leaving is more complicated than it previously would have been. I have very few connections near me and limited savings. But trust me, I'm not blind now. Cool Login says, I dated someone who did this sometimes. Not as much as your boyfriend, but that's okay because he did other really shitty stuff. What it boiled down to for this guy was a couple of things. The biggest was he was extremely passive aggressive. Giving me credit for saying something smart was just out of the question for him. It would feel like he was letting me win because for him, every interaction was a win-lose scenario, and he hated to lose. The other related reason he did it was that he didn't want to reinforce in people's mind the idea that I was his girlfriend. Another commenter says, yeah, good point. Why did he tell his co-workers a friend helped him with a recipe? Do they even know who he lives with? Opie says, I've been wondering that myself after reading these comments. He claims he talks about me, and I know that his best friends and his family knows because I've hung out with them. But I realize I have no idea if his co-workers or other friends even know if I exist. Or they do know I as a person exist, but they don't know we're anything other than roommates. Yeah, and I'm glad other people were bringing up the friend comment because it definitely felt to me that, they don't know you exist and he's taking credit for everything and who knows what bloody else is going on. But it was 5 weeks later that OP updated the post and says, after reading all of your comments, I didn't want to jump to conclusions based on things strangers on the internet said, but certain things really gave me pause. I realized that the problem was much bigger than the issue I had originally posted about. I'd been writing off some things in my relationship that had already given me some concerns, but I blamed on my anxiety or insecurity. I won't go into them for sake of length. Things really began to click when I took people's advice to look up gaslighting and narcissistic personality. So I began to take note of those small things and also do a little digging. Mostly, I began to realize I was being gaslit, a term I didn't understand before posting here, and lied to. Biggest concern of all, I found out that he manipulated me and created a fake crisis that made me think my old living situation was in jeopardy, which was the reason I moved in with him. I can't go into more details or someone will definitely identify me, but I've been unsure about moving in with him, and that crisis had pushed me over the edge, and I now realize it was how he controlled me and isolated me from my friends. Suffice it to say, at the moment I was ready to leave, but now that I knew how far he would go, I was scared to break up with him until I had an escape plan. So I decided to write down everything that happened so I couldn't be gaslit anymore. And as soon as I made that decision, it's like things just fell into my lap. I found out that he was constantly looking up exes and girls he had met on dating apps in the past, many of whom were friends with me on social media. He let me use his laptop and I saw his Facebook search history. Some light digging revealed that he was receiving flirtatious messages from girls, and while nothing overt happened, he definitely avoided mentioning he was in a relationship to them. I caught him texting the girl who he talked to before me. It ended badly, and trying to reconnect even though she didn't want to. She told him to fuck off and ended up blocking him and even deleting most of her social media. I never found out why they didn't work out, but I'm guessing he was an arsehole. And then, completely on accident, I was messaged by one of his female friends whom I met a couple of times. Turns out they met on a dating app and had gone on 3 dates while he and I were together early in our relationship. We compared texts and found evidence of him lying to both of us and gaslighting me. There's even a chain where I mention he is being cold to me and asking if something is wrong, and he convinces me that it was my anxiety making me read too much into things again, all while texting me from his date with her. Even more small stuff I won't go into. Yesterday I found a temporary place to live. Today I broke up with him after laying all the shitty things he did out in front of him. He lied multiple times even during the conversation. He didn't know I had receipts and proof, and boy did he change his tune when I pulled that out. He tried to convince me that All of it meant nothing and made me feel sorry for him by talking about his childhood and how he has insecurity issues. I told him that we all have issues, and while that explains his behavior, it doesn't excuse it, and he can't use trauma as an excuse to traumatize others. I told him he can stay in our apartment, but he can't talk to me. I don't want to interact with him, and after we move, I want him out of my life completely. I found a place to live, although it's smaller and farther from work, but I'll do whatever it takes to get out. I can move in the 1st of November. This says low-key messed me up a bit. I never had trust issues before, and I feel like I'm completely doubting my own judgment. I was so sure of myself before, but I know once I'm out that things will be better, and I feel there's a weight off my shoulders. Although I admit I feel like a total idiot for not figuring out things sooner. I want to say thank you to everyone who commented and gave advice. You all had opened my eyes. This has been really crappy, but I know I've learned a lot and won't make those same mistakes again. Jojo says, how can you have trust issues when you succeeded in identifying a narcissistic liar, learning about a way to manipulate you didn't know about, gathering evidence, confronting the abuser, and moving out safely? I understand why you feel bad about yourself. You should really think about the way you handled it so it didn't end badly. Hope you reply saying, this honestly made me tear up. I didn't think about it like this, and it really made me feel better. Thank you. Moody V says, wow, this is insane. So scary to think you didn't really know the person you were sharing a bed with. I'm so happy you're able to take a step back and see what was really happening. I hope you can heal from this awful relationship and forget about him. I would like to say I'm proud that you and the girl you interacted with are in no way rude to each other and knew this was all his fault. Not everyone is mature enough to understand that, so good on the both of you. And I would like to draw attention to something you said. He can't use trauma as an excuse to traumatize others. This girl. Just because people had it rough doesn't give them license to be a shitty person. And I'm so happy you didn't let him guilt trip you again. Wishing you all the best. Opie says, thank you so much for your kind words. It truly means a lot. I'd like to give credit to the other girl as well. She messaged me to ask about something totally unrelated. And when she mentioned their history and I asked the timeline, I was honestly terrified of her reaction. But she was very kind and supportive, and we exchanged numbers and worked the details out together. She had been cheated on before and gave me some really good advice and has been consistently kind. We currently text back and forth about unrelated things, usually our plant babies, and I couldn't have asked for a better reaction from her. And lots of people were pointing out the trauma doesn't excuse traumatizing others, and absolutely that. Just good on OP and the other lady as well for joining forces, comparing notes and talking about the house plants as well. That sounded lovely. It sounded like there could be a friendship there, and I really hope that is the case for them both. We've seen absolute horror stories like this, and for something like that to come out of it in the end, I think that's a good thing. Obviously, it's going to hurt OP for some time going forward, because finding out all this all at once has got to be just a shock, right? But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Old Aunt Help and says, my 66 male, wife 61 female, is taking care of our aunt, 86 female, and it is killing our marriage. My daughter uses Reddit and is helping me type this today. I'm at a loss in what to do in this situation. My wife's aunt became a widow 2 years ago. She came to live with us because she was afraid of staying alone. Since we had extra rooms and that she was perfectly healthy and fine, we decided it was okay to let her stay with us. Over time, she grew more and more attached to my wife. She wouldn't want her to go to work because she'd miss her. She didn't want her to go shopping because it was always too long. She would follow her to parties and events even if she didn't want to go because she didn't want to be without her. I told my wife that it was becoming unhealthy and that her aunt should talk more to her friends and try to meet with them. She has a couple of friends around her age. My wife always told me that I was exaggerating and that there was nothing wrong. Recently, 6 months ago or so, the aunt caught bronchitis and then another viral infection and some type of spine pain. She became very dependent on us to move her. That's when things started going really bad. She required my wife's attention almost 24/7 and would cry when my wife wasn't around. She wanted my wife to sleep next to her, feed her, talk to her constantly, not go out, not go to work, etc. After a week, I complained to my wife about not spending any time with her and that her aunt was taking all of her. My wife dismissed my worries and told me that she would get better soon. After 2 months of her aunt acting like a baby and constantly complaining about pain, I suggested we go consult. The doctor said she was perfectly fine, nothing wrong. We had trouble believing it, so we consulted different specialists, and they ultimately said that if she keeps up her good health, she could live another 10 to 15 years. We met with a psychologist, and he said the aunt needs more tests to determine what she has, but that my wife and I clearly need to focus on us and not her aunt affecting our marriage. Since I'm retired, I told my wife that we should finally go take the vacations we always wanted. I booked tickets to go on a cruise around Alaska. I even planned everything and asked my daughter, 35 female, to take care of her aunt. A week before going, I couldn't keep the secret anymore and told my wife what I had done. My wife was clearly happy and amazed. I finally thought we could have some alone good time. When she let her aunt know later that night, it was a major catastrophe. The aunt cried, threw tantrums, called her friends to let her know how awful we were to leave her alone. She even threw herself on the ground. I told my wife it was time to put her in a home for elders and that she couldn't stay with us anymore. My wife refused. She said she wasn't going to abandon her and that it's hard to be old. She also cancelled our vacations and said she's sure I'd understand. It hurt me a lot. I did end up going with my daughter instead and we had a great time, but that's besides the point. Now we're selling our house. It's too big for us. The aunt has a say in all this. She requires a room with specific details such as dimensions, views, number of stairs to come into the house, etc. Wife is actually listening to her and is making me more and more unhappy. I retired to spend time with her, our kids and our grandkids, but it feels like she's only spending time with her aunt. We are in couples counseling. It is not helping us. I've been married to her for almost 45 years. I don't want to give her an ultimatum as she is the love of my life and I certainly don't ever want to be without her. I just want to spend quality time with her. Petron says to the OP, is your wife willing to ruin your retirement and marriage for her aunt? You need to issue the ultimatum as this isn't fair to you or her. Would getting professional care to look after her in your home be an option instead of sending her to a nursing home? Opie says we found this lovely lady who would come and take care of the aunt a couple of hours a day. Speaks the same language and has over 25 years of experience. My wife refused, saying she is a stranger and that if we need to pay someone, then we should do it ourselves and keep the money. Stuck Hands says, I'll just start taking the trips without her. Maybe she'll notice. Opie says, I took that trip without her. It was a dream trip. She did say she wished she could have gone, but that was it. I think she feels like her aunt is her duty, kind of like when you have children. Jay Palin says, is your wife of another ethnic or cultural background? Sometimes that plays into the situation, and if her family, speaking a non-local language, is used to relying upon one another, going to an outsider might seem even more difficult, no matter how qualified and caring. I'm in my 30s and my husband and I are caring for my aged widowed father in conjunction with all of my 4 siblings and paid caretakers by switching off days and weekends. It's really hard stuff and very frustrating. You didn't mention where you're from, though since you mentioned cruising Alaska, I'm guessing you're in North America, but in the States. If someone is still competent to make their own decisions, i.e. doesn't have dementia, you can't put them in care against their will. It complicates things. You've been married to your wife for a very long time. I'd reach out to her and tell her that you want to make the situation as easy as possible for her, for the aunt, and for you. Find out the elder care laws. Find out what the requirements are to keep the aunt in her own home or yours. There are charitable groups that will do regular visits or agencies to offer respite care. There are adult daycare centers. I don't know what the compromise is here. My husband and I don't either. Opie says you're right. My wife used to take care of her mum who took care of her mum. It seems to be very cultural. The aunt has been living in America for 50 years but never did any effort to learn English. She only speaks a native language, which really complicates things. So it was a month after this that OP came in with an update and said something completely magical happened. My wife and I were looking at a house we both actually love. It has every single thing we wanted in our retirement home, and it's close to everything that we need. We were thrilled, and when she told her aunt and showed her the pictures of the house, her aunt laughed and said, "You can't buy that. It has stairs. I can't go up and down the stairs." Something clicked in my wife's mind. She simply said to her aunt, "It's the house that my husband and I like, and the fact that it has some stairs that you are healthy enough to go up and down on won't stop us." Her aunt cried and cried. We called our new therapist, which suggested that we treat her like a child, check on her every 15 minutes but not give in. We did that and she got over it by the next morning. My wife also got more tough love with her aunt, and whenever she'd complain about stuff my wife knows are unreal, my wife dismisses it politely. Things aren't 100% perfect. The new therapist helped my wife a lot. She mainly focused on her and why my wife was feeling the almost nurturing need to be there for her aunt. And I really do hope that the wife did open her eyes to what was going on in this situation in the end. It seemed like she was coming around to it. It seemed to have like this new house that actually triggered it rather than a husband, which I found was pretty sad at the same time. But yeah, I really do hope that things start to move in the right direction, because the alternative is, and you know, people were saying 10 to 15 years that she might go on for, possibly more, who knows? And this couple's already in their 60s. At a point where you should be chilling out and enjoying life, you're dealing with this. Deary me. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's have one more story. And our next one's going to come from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. No update as yet. It's from Kaleidoscope Front 939. And it asks, am I the arsehole for telling a woman to charge a guy more at a yard sale? I was shopping around our city's yard sales yesterday and stopped to look through some clothes. While I was looking, a guy walked up and asked the old lady running the sale if she had anything golf related. My ears perked up because I have just recently gotten into golf. The lady said she had her late husband's clubs but didn't know what they would be worth, so she dragged them out to show the guy. It was obvious the guy knew golf by the way he took a couple of practice swings, and you could tell by his car and clothing he appeared to be well off. As he looked around the bag, the lady was telling him that her husband had just passed and that she didn't know if the clubs were worth anything. He said they weren't that great and offered $200 for everything. She seemed hesitant and said she didn't know, and he just kind of talked over her and said, "Here, I'll go grab the money," and walked towards his car. I walked over to see what was in the bag, and for anyone who knows golf, I'll throw this one out there. Almost new GT3 driver, and 3-wood, gently used Mizuno irons, nice Tillis wedges, a very nice looking Scotty putter, great condition, and Titleist cart bag. Pronunciations on any of those, I do apologize. I'm no golfer myself. The stuff combined would be a steal at 1K. Obviously, this lady's late husband had spent a good penny on the clubs, and I felt bad for her. So I told her she should pass on that guy's offer and have someone at the local course pro shop help her price the stuff out to sell if she wanted. She seemed totally shocked when I told her the driver and 3-wood were probably worth $800 alone. When the guy came back, he was glaring at me. When he tried to hand the lady the cash, she said no thanks and that she was just going to get the stuff appraised. He got upset and told her she can't back out of a deal, so I chimed in that they didn't really make a deal. He got pissed at me and told me I needed to mind my business. The lady then told him she wasn't interested again and to please leave. He walked to the end of the driveway and just stood there angry like my toddler would. Before he walked away, he called me an arsehole and stomped off. The whole thing was more funny than anything to me. I was telling this story to my co-workers today, and they were all dogging on me saying I should have kept my mouth shut and let the guy get a good deal. But it felt wrong letting him rip her off. So am I the arsehole here? Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation at all. You was just being a decent human being. That guy was absolutely trying to rip off a grieving widow. And again, he knew exactly what he was doing, which is why he was swooping in so fast with the cash and tried to close the deal before she could really think about it. And your co-workers, screw those people. If they think that's decent, air quotes, let someone get a good deal, which basically meant staying silent while someone is in that position is getting exploited. For me, there's a huge difference, between like finding something good at a car boot sale or a yard sale or something, and you're getting You're getting it for a couple of quid cheaper compared to just ripping someone off who just doesn't have a clue about their value, is already in a vulnerable position anyway. But Slater says, and quoting the co-workers, and says, you work with people who would support a guy ripping off a widow, who expressed disappointment that you didn't let it happen. Why'd you ever speak to these people? Are these even people? For the love of fuck. Let me tell you something. Her husband literally torpedoed back to this world through you to stop that shit from happening. Not the arsehole. Ice Cream Yeah says, not the arsehole. She didn't have the club sitting out for sale with a $200 price tag. I think that would have been different. She wasn't ready to sell them because she didn't know what they were worth, and he set the price. It doesn't sound like she even agreed to it. Good for you, OP. William says, not the arsehole. Rich dude had the money, just didn't want to spend it and happy to screw a recently bereaved woman to do it. You just called out basic indecency. I'm sure he'll get other opportunities to be a dick and will take advantage of them. But on the back of all this as well, there was a couple of people saying, this is a yard sale. That's the way it works. But what do you guys make of this situation? Question for you US folks. Are yard sales a common thing? Like you're just driving down the road and like there's people out the front with loads of stuff on their yard. I know I've seen it a couple of times in the UK, not a sale as such, but like just a random item out the front on someone's yard, just the one single thing. And we have car boot sales where you go to a field and everyone's got their car boots with tables at the front selling shit. But do people actually set up like a store on their yard in various places? I'm not going to say US because it might be other places as well. Let me know about that because I'm really curious. But just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time, your likes, your shares, everything you do for me. Really, really appreciated. Thank you so, so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.